Monsters beyond the familiar. When most people think of mythical monsters, familiar names come to mind. Dragons, vampires, werewolves, maybe even krakens. But hidden in the folklore of cultures across the globe are creatures far more disturbing, entities that feed on our darkest fears, punish wrongdoers, and blur the line between myth and nightmare. These aren't the creatures you read about in glossy fantasy books. These are the monsters whispered about around campfires, passed down in hushed tones and believed to lurk in shadows where light refuses to reach. The Wendigo, the hunger that never ends, North America. Among the Algonquian-speaking peoples of North America exists the terrifying Wendigo, a creature born from greed, famine, and insatiable hunger. The Wendigo is often described as gaunt, with skeletal features, glowing eyes, and an icy heart. Some stories portray it as a giant, towering above humans, while others say it was once a person transformed after resorting to cannibalism in times of starvation. What makes the Wendigo horrifying is its endless appetite. No matter how much it devours, it is never satisfied. The Wendigo has become a symbol of unchecked consumption, an eternal hunger that strips away humanity and leaves behind only a ravenous monster. The Tikbalang, trickster of the forest, Philippines. In the mountains and rainforests of the Philippines lurks the Tikbalang, a bizarre creature with the head and hooves of a horse but the body of a man. Towering and unnerving, the Tikbalang preys not with brute force but with cunning. It is said to confuse travelers, making them wander in circles endlessly until they are lost. In some tales, it perches on trees, watching silently, its glowing eyes piercing the dark. What makes the Tikbalang horrifying is not just its appearance but its psychological terror. The idea that you could be trapped forever in the wilderness, stalked and toyed with by something that knows every path and shadow. The Nuckelavee, the skinless horror of Scotland. From the Orkney Islands of Scotland comes one of the most grotesque monsters in European folklore, the Nuckelavee. This creature resembles a horse fused with a rider, but its body is skinless, exposing raw flesh and pulsing veins. It spreads disease wherever it goes, wilting crops and poisoning livestock with its foul breath. The Nuckelavee despises fresh water, and villagers once believed streams and rivers were the only barriers that kept it at bay. The image of a skinless, disease-spreading horse demon stalking the misty Scottish moors is enough to unsettle even the bravest heart. The Pontianak, spirit of vengeance, Malaysia and Indonesia. In Southeast Asian folklore, the Pontianak is the spirit of a woman who died during childbirth. Pale-skinned with long black hair, red eyes, and sharp fingernails, she preys on men, often luring them with her beauty before revealing her monstrous form. The Pontianak's cries are said to warn of her presence. If you hear her far away, she is near. If she sounds close, she is far. Her victims are often found drained of blood or horribly mutilated. This horrifying entity represents vengeance, grief, and the blurred line between beauty and terror. The Ammit, the devourer of souls, ancient Egypt. Not all monsters stalked the physical world, some haunted the afterlife. In ancient Egyptian mythology, the Ammit was a terrifying beast that devoured the souls of the unworthy. With the head of a crocodile, the body of a lion, and the hindquarters of a hippopotamus, the three most feared animals of the Nile, Ammit waited in the Hall of Judgment. If a soul's heart was heavier than a feather, Ammit would consume it, condemning that person to eternal oblivion. The horror of Ammit lies in its finality. There is no escape, no redemption, only eternal erasure. The Grootslang, the serpent of riches, South Africa. In South African legend, the Grootslang is a monstrous serpent said to dwell in deep caves, particularly the legendary Wonder Hole. According to myth, it was one of the first creatures created by the gods, so powerful and cunning that it had to be split into separate species, elephants and snakes. But one Grootslang escaped, and its descendants still lurk in hidden places. The Grootslang is said to lure victims with promises of diamonds and treasure, only to drag them into the depths and devour them whole. It combines humanity's fear of snakes with the danger of greed and temptation. The Manananggal, the flying horror, Philippines. One of the Philippines' most terrifying mythical creatures is the Manananggal, a vampiric, shape-shifting monster. By day it appears as a woman, but by night it splits its body in half, leaving its lower torso behind. With wings like a bat, it flies into the night to feast on the blood of sleeping victims, especially pregnant women. To make matters worse, it is said the mananangle spreads fear not only through its feeding but through its grotesque appearance, dangling entrails trailing behind as it glides through moonlit skies. The only way to kill it is to find its abandoned lower half and cover it with salt or ash, preventing the creature from reuniting with its body before dawn. The Dullahan, the Headless Rider, Ireland. Irish folklore gives us the Dullahan, a spectral horseman who rides with his head tucked under his arm. His steed is black as night, and wherever he stops, death is sure to follow. The Dullahan's head glows with an unholy light, its eyes darting about, while its mouth stretches into a horrific grin. In some tales, he carries a whip made from a human spine. If the Dullahan calls a name, that person is doomed to die instantly. He is an omen, an unstoppable messenger of death, horrifying not for what he does, but for what he signifies, the inevitability of mortality. The Aswang, shapeshifter of terror, Philippines. The Philippines offers another nightmare. The Aswang, a shapeshifter that can appear as a human by day, but transforms into a monstrous predator by night. Unlike the mananangle, the Aswang is more versatile. It can mimic animals, stalk prey, or even replace infants with inhuman doubles. The Aswang embodies fear of the unknown neighbor, the friend who hides a monstrous secret. Communities once lived in paranoia, unsure if their loved ones might secretly be one of these shape-shifting fiends. The Bunyip, the swamp dweller, Australia. Aboriginal Australian legends speak of the Bunyip, a creature said to haunt swamps, billabongs, and rivers. Its form varies, sometimes described as having tusks, flippers, or a terrifying bellow, but always monstrous. The Bunyip was said to lurk in the water at night, dragging victims beneath the surface. While its mythological descriptions vary, the fear it instilled was universal. Respect the waters, or risk encountering the creature that dwells within them. The Obambo, the cannibal spirits, Central Africa. In Central African folklore, the Obambo are restless spirits of the dead who rise from their graves to prey upon the living. They are said to wander villages, possessing people, whispering terrifying secrets, or devouring flesh. Unlike vampires or ghouls from European tales, the Obambo are rooted in ancestral fears of dishonored dead returning to torment the living. To encounter one was to face both spiritual and physical annihilation. Why these monsters matter? At first glance, these creatures might seem like old ghost stories meant to frighten children into obedience. But every monster reflects the fears of the culture that created it. The Wendigo warns against greed and cannibalism. The Tipalang embodies the fear of being lost in nature. The Pontianak channels grief, vengeance, and fear of death and childbirth. The Amit reflects moral judgment after death. The Grootslang reveals our obsession with riches and the dangers of temptation. They are cautionary tales, psychological mirrors, and cultural guardians all in one. The enduring terror of the unknown. What makes these rare mythical monsters horrifying is not just their grotesque forms, but the truths they carry. They embody universal human fears: hunger, death, betrayal, greed, isolation, and the unknown. Even in the modern world of science and technology, these monsters endure in our stories because they give shape to the things we cannot fully explain or fully escape.